Good morning. Thank you for joining us for the Power of Digital Takeoff for Trimble Estimation. My name is Millie Boiten, and I will be hosting the webinar today. I am joined by Carl Rajat, who will be presenting the main content. Before we get started, I'd like to go over a few housekeeping items. Please ask questions in the GoToWebinar Q&A box. Any questions that we do not get through today will be answered individually or in an FAQ document that we will distribute. The webinar will be recorded and distributed in a follow-up email. And please feel free to email any follow-up questions that you have to meplearning@trimble.com. Alrighty, so this is Carl. He's our Director of Enterprise Systems Integration, and he will be presenting our main content today.
Well, hello, everybody, and good morning. Just a quick little bio of myself. I've been doing this for a little long time here. I've worked with estimation way back and went through some acquisitions and ended up in Trimble MEP. And that's where we have changed back to the name Trimble Estimation. We came actually from Viewpoint Estimation a couple years ago. And that's the product that we're going to be talking about. So let me give you a quick little agenda what I want to talk about today and show you just some about the evolution of takeoff and the tools going way back into the first era of computerized estimating. And then what this graphical takeoff is, a big leap forward and so forth. And it's been around for a while. And a lot of changes and a lot of new enhancements has helped it evolve to a very powerful tool. And then I'll get into some demo. I'm going to try and go into electrical, mechanical, and sheet metal, different ones, so you can see it in whatever trade that you might be from. Then there's some other things we can talk about, shape recognition, which is similar to auto count, managed sheet revisions, similar to overlay, PDF tools, and then we'll finish up with some upcoming webinars, talk about that, and some questions. So what I want to say is, this is just, I know we have a lot of attendees on here. This is for Trimble Estimation. Trimble Estimation was Viewpoint Estimation MEP product, and before that, it was estimation. And this product, Digital Takeoff, is what goes along with that product. There are, if you have AutoBid or AccuBid and you're on this call, there's a lot of similar things you can stay on. There's a lot of similar things for it, but it is focused around the digital takeoff for estimation. Now, AccuBid has something similar, which is live count, and that tool is available as well. And AutoBid has its own graphical takeoff built into the product. And there are some webinars, I know there's some webinars for live count, and there might be some webinars for AutoBid that'll be specific to those products. But again, this is Trimble Estimation, the digital takeoff. So some of the tools, you're familiar with these, doing everything by paper, and then they involved, a lot of this was doing it, even though you had a pad and paper, you're still using a computer to get things done. Then it evolved a little bit more with these measurement tools, the quicker things, hotkeys, the power pad, the menu pad we used and still use today, as well as the digitizers. And these tools are still effective and work with the product. However, that whole concept of getting away from paper and getting things in PDF and having to print it out and so forth like that, it's a lot easier if you're just bringing this into a graphical on screen. So what graphical takeoff is digital takeoff. We are straight from the plans. That's, we're downloading from the plan rooms. If you get them on CD-ROM or a thumb drive, or if you're scanning in blueprints. That's how, pretty much how you're using that, and you get those in PDF form. And a lot of times you get all the plans in the PDF, and you might be only using a section, and we'll talk about that later, how we can break that up, but you can use other tools to do that as well. And if you do have an AutoCAD file format, you can bring that in. A lot of times we don't get those formats, but they are available if you do. So with digital takeoff, it has the ability to run separately. When I would say run separately, it is its own module, and you can move that digital takeoff screen to another screen. So you could one of the things, if you're gone from a full size D size drawings on your plan table or your digitizer, and now you're going to the screen, and a lot of people worry about that. You know, what's the real estate that I'm going to be able to see? And this is where we recommend that you buy a monitor, a bigger monitor for just the drawings itself, but you can have split screen. So you can have another screen, maybe your desktop monitor, and that's where your digital takeoff. And I'll explain more when I show it to you, but those are the kinds of things that we suggest, and we've seen a lot of customers go that route. And then we have what's called a Mouseover Focus, that when you move from one module to the other, it automatically puts you in focus into that module. So you don't have to click in focus. And what I mean is, when you move from window and you say you're going to your mailbox, you got to click into the mailbox with your mail to get it active, that window active. This automatically does it. And as well as it's portable for a laptop. So you can take your job on the road and still not having your plans with you. You can do it on the plane and so forth like that. So you're drawing on one screen with a dual monitor, and it is linked live to the other screen, which is your audit trail. And that is what you do today. When you digitize and you measure and you whatever, you start taking off, yeah, it takes off in your audit trail, and you see, you make your selections in your audit trail, and that's where it is. Well, there is no link between what was on paper and what's in your audit trail. And that's the beauty of this, that these are linked together. So give you an example of a setup, a couple of setups here. To the right is what I was talking about, where you have a bigger screen and move from a drafting table. Now it's up on the monitor. And then on the left is actually the audit trail and the options and the menu, things like that. On the left here is it does work with pen-based systems. And that still gives you, then they're becoming bigger and bigger. This is a smaller one. They do have some larger ones now. And that's an option too, because it still gives you that feeling that you're actually measuring with a pen, as if you're on a blueprint. Okay, so with that, I'm going to flip over to go through a little bit of a demonstration of this. So let's go into electrical. We'll start electrical first. So over here, if you're running, you see that you have digital takeoff. If you haven't purchased digital takeoff, obviously when you click on digital takeoff, it wouldn't go in. But this takeoff, so we do keep this one active. So if you're going to use a digitizer and and sometimes it's a learning curve. So I'm trying to go to digital takeoff and it's not as fast as what I can do that I'm used to. You still have the ability, go in, get your job done, come back, then start building more experience on digital takeoff. And then you will find that the value outweighs the speed, and even you'll get up to that speed that you are on paper, because of not having to change pens, mark your plans up and things like that. But the value you gain of having it electronically outweighs it. So it does look the same when it comes in. You have your sections. Let's go branch. And what I'm doing for this demo is I'm doing it all on one screen. So I have the digital takeoff here in this area here. And then my audit trail over here. So this is what I was talking about, that this can be on another screen. And this is the menu pad down here, which is similar to your power pad, which changes based on your menus. Now this function down here, you do have that without digital takeoff. It does work. So the first thing you're going to do is come in and you're going to go and look for the sheets that you want to bring in. And I'm just going to go out on my system here. Let's scroll up here. Electrical, and so these are your drawings that you're bringing in. You can go and bring in as many as you want. If it was a multiple PDF, meaning it had multiple pages, it's going to prompt you to use a tool that we give you, that I'll show you a little bit later. That tool allows you to break up the PDF. So you might have a 300-page PDF that you were given and you only need 20 sheets of it. So then it allows you to see them all in thumbnails and pick out the ones that you want. But if it's a single one, it's just going to bring that in. And what we have on our digital takeoff screen, you have all your icons at the top, and then you have your real estate in here. And over here is what we call your palette, because it's when we get going, it'll have the different colors and the different line styles and things like that. But the first thing it's going to come in and ask you to do is to compensate. You need to measure off something and give it a scale. And you can do a override and put in 1/8 or 1/8 or 1/4 inch scale, because that's what the plan says. But you don't really know how this has been reduced, how it was scanned in, and so forth. So I always suggest that you measure off something. And we'll go 4 foot and we'll scroll in. So you see my mouse in here. So it's asking us to click on the beginning of the line to compensate. So I'm just using my mouse wheel and I'm scrolling into this 2x4. And I'm just going to touch a point here. And that's going to say the end of line and touch a point here. And that's all I need to do. And I've got my scale. So one of the big things with moving over to on screen is the navigation. And I'm just using my wheel to move in and out. If I want to come in this panel room, I center my mouse and just start scrolling my wheel, and it keeps it centered. So I go directly in the middle of that room. So that's important and so forth. And then there's the ability to, just pan. If you want to pan, you get to a comfortable viewing area, and then you can pan around like this just by holding the control button down. So there's certain things that you can do, but that's very important. So back to this palette, this is what you're going to use to mark up the plan. So you have your different type of symbols, you have the color that you're doing, as well as transparency. And transparency obviously is, I want to see the actual drawing be underneath. So it's almost like the highlighter, and how intense do you want that highlighter, and then thickness line. So once we connect, it's just a connect button to say that we have this digital takeoff connected to our audit trail. And so now we're running live. So if I just want to go in here, let's go. I'm going to change quick to another drawing. Let's go to this one. And I'm going to move over to here. Now, I can have, even though this symbol looks the same as this one's a rectangle, this was a square, I want to go rectangular one, and I just go ahead and I'm just going in the center of here and counting up these light fixtures. Come over to my menu, do fixtures here, and I'm going to do a 2x4 layout. And what you see is it colored what I just took off, the color that I had, the red that I had selected, as well as it took it off over here. So this is what it took off. These are my 6 that represent the 6 right here. Pretty simple. Now I just want to run off some line. So if I want to change my color, I can go ahead and change my color, make it blue, and I can go to a segmented line. And I'm just touching a point. I just click with my left mouse button, and now you can see I'm connected. And I'm just coming across like that, making my turn like that. And then I got to right click and I can say finish. If I want to add a drop or a riser, I can. I'm just going to finish here, and I'm going to just do some 3/4 inch EMT. Again, that colors it the color that I have selected here. And now that line has been taken off. That conduit's been taken off. One feature you have with digitizers is, as well as AccuProbes, is the ability to do segmented length or breaks. So I have the same line. So I just want to go in, I'm staying in my segmented line. Let's just say I'm going to go down here and I'm going to connect here, and I'm going to hit a break. And then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to connect here, here to here, hit another break. And then I'm going to connect from here to here. And then I'm going to finish, take off my same thing. And those 3 runs are all compiled into one run here. So I can quickly do that as well. Another feature you have is do 90s. And this is a quick 90 if I'm doing a run. So I'm coming in here and I'm just doing a run back to a panel. I don't have to make the turn, it automatically makes it for me and it's straight. And then I'm done that, I finish that line and I can take off. And that line is taken off. The home run feature is only for electrical, and that allows you to, when you do take it off, this line that I would have taken off and I've added drops and that everything would get rolled up into a home run. And you can label that home run. So that's just a feature. That's just quick demonstration of how easy it is. The biggest thing again is the navigation, and then the measurement is your main ones that you're using is segmented line or counts. It was nice if I go to something like this, I want to change, say I want to do a check mark or whatever like that, I can go ahead and just click a check mark. Notice it automatically puts me in count, and then I'm able to do check marks as well, rather than the full color rectangle that filled in the line there. So I'm going to jump out of here. And now let's go into mechanical. That. What's nice is going from trade to trade is very similar. So whether you're doing electrical, mechanical, or HVAC, the digital takeoff is pretty much identical, except there's a couple features that are pertain to the electrical and others that pertain to mechanical and or sheet metal. So I'm going to go ahead and change my drawing. Let's get a little plumbing here. And we're going to take off. Let's go to 3-inch. I come here and change it to 3-inch. And we'll just take off this cold water run. So I'm going to go ahead and select segment and line. I got to connect. Connect the first. And I'm going to start taking off my segmented line. So watch when I move off the screen, it actually scrolls for me. So I don't have to change. So if I zoomed in and I'm actually moving off the screen, it'll go ahead and move towards either right or left, up and down. And this time I'm going to add a vertical drop and finish, and then take off my pipe. So it took off 56 feet of pipe, picked up an elbow, and dropped me 8 foot. And how did it know that? I look at I have 8 foot set. I could set that to 0 and have it prompt me every time, so I know that I don't know what my drop's going to be, and I don't have to add an elbow. Now, another thing we could have done is, I'm going to take off a similar line here, but we'll keep it 3 inches to show you the difference here. Say I had a drop in the middle. Let's go and start taking off here, segmented line. And say I wanted to drop here. I can right click, say drop and continue. And see how it continues my line here. So I go ahead and move up a little bit more. I've got another one here. I'm going to drop and continue. And I'm going to come in here and finish with a vertical drop and finish. I'm going to go ahead and take that off. And that picked up 5 elbows for me. So I 1, 2 for the drop and continue, 1, 2 for the drop and continue, and then 1 for the final drop, as well as my additional piping that I needed on the drop. And you can see that here when I zoom in and I selected it, it's a symbol here that it's selected. And I can say show the components, and it's going to say, all right, well, there's the actual fit in, and then that's the extra additional 8 foot length of pipe that it did. So it gives you a physical there. So if I want to select it and make a change, I can. or I can go ahead and hide the components, and then it's just a simple symbol there. So one other thing is there's an auto fit feature. This auto fit feature right here, this allows you to insert a T. So if I come in here and I say, all right, I'm going to go to 3/4 inch. This is like a 3/4 inch. It's hard to see. You see when I move over that pipe in, I get a different icon. It's a finger. So I touch that point to that point and do a piece of line here. And I'm going to take off. It's going to pick up, because I went off at 3/4 inch. That's what it says, 3/4 inch. It took off my 7 foot 3/4 inch and inserted a reducing T automatically. So I got a 3 inch by 3/4 inch reducing T. So it picked up that T automatically when I moved. So I can quickly do, run my pipe, count my elbows, and then go ahead and automatically do that. Now, I'll show you in HVAC where in mechanical does that as well. Actually, I could show it right now. I'm going to do a single line takeoff. And in this case, I'm going to go ahead and touch point to point. Go up here. Let's just turn there and end, finish line. All right, what this did was, if you notice, it took off my pipe in sections. So it picked up 2 elbows automatically. So when I look up here, I can see that I have a 90 taken off, as well as if I zoom out, come in here, I have a 90 as well. So that's single line takeoff. What single line consolidated takeoff does, it would have taken it off, but combine all the runs of pipe and combine the elbows into 2 lines taken off. So it just adds them up instead of doing the individual lines. And that's important when you're in it. And when you're in the sheet metal, you want to keep it as separate lines of measured pieces because of the less than standard length cuts and things like that. Anywhere you can add text. If you want to add text, you can put some notes in there. You can say a sticky note or a pointer. You change the font. 8, 10. And then you can say the ceiling height in this area is 10, 20 feet. And that's your note. So you can insert notes, put a pointer on there, and so forth. So there's a little other things that you can do. You can add a legend as well. And a legend, let's see. I want to come out here and add a legend here. You can resize it all, and it gives you a legend of your items and so forth that you take out. They match with what you've taken off. So it's a quick way to add a legend in here. Let me change here and go to okay. What I've done here is I was able to take a cut out of a piece, and it was an addition and so forth. So now I have this pipe taken off. I can go ahead and select this pipe and everything with it. And I have the ability to copy. So I can copy that if I have it like, say, another room or another plan, the exact same setup. It's a bathroom or whatever it might be that is exactly the same. So I can copy out of there, go into another drawing that has bigger drawing that has that same kind of setup. And then here it is. And I look at that and I say, all right, you know what? I'm going to paste this. Now, before I hit paste, watch over here. So it's going to go pick up. I might not have grabbed everything. Hang on, sorry about that. So it's going to take off everything over here. Same amount. So got everything taken off. It's identical. What's nice is you can come over here and you can move it. You can line it up. Say, all right, well, that's pretty close to everything taken off here. Only thing is, this line is extended out a little longer. So go ahead and select it. I'm going to resize it. So it was 47 feet. Now it's down to 44. Just by making that change. So one of the things is, if I'm talking about live, if I select anything over here, you notice it highlights the special over there. If I select the pipe here, it finds it. So this is where it's linked together. So being that that pipe's there, I can go ahead and extend it out. Watch over there, went to 49 feet, and I can put it back. So that quick, I copied and pasted that over to another drawing and took everything off and didn't have to retake it off again. And made adjustments where needed. All right, let me jump out and go into HVAC or sheet metal. Again, very similar. Everything's laid out the same. Tools, everything is identical here. A little different, maybe a couple icons different here, but other than that, they're very similar across the board. So in this case, let's go ahead and connect. It's going to change my sizes here. 16. Oh, I'm good. I'm 16 by 14. All right, I'm going to take off this run of pipe here, but I'm going to use single line takeoff. Let's start here. I'm going to stop right here. There's a line. And let's go to menu rectangular. So what that automatically did was it filled the line automatically to the size. Now, I was a little off center there, but if you're better than me and you're in the middle of the line, it's going to fill it because it's based on a scale. If your scales are correct, it's going to make a highlighter the width of that scale. So if it's looking at the 14 and saying, all right, I need a 14-inch highlighted portion. So it highlights the entire ductwork. And you can see in these pieces here, we did the same. So that's nice just to quickly do it. It also picked up the 45s, each one of these 45s. That's the single line takeoff, and then I can do my transition, count up my transition, continue on. All right, so we're going to flip back. I'm going to talk about a couple other things. Shape recognition. I'll come back to that and show it in electrical, but let's just talk about that. Shape recognition is where it identifies different areas, and you have the ability to crop an area that you want to look for things. It's more used in electrical. However, you can use it for diffusers and things like that as well. The problem is how much interference you have. If you have a lot of stuff on a drawing and so forth, how much interference is making that automatic selection process confused. So what it does, it shows you what it found, which is 100% match, and then what are the ones it's not sure of, and it allows you, it's still faster than going through and counting up everything. But there's a way, if you do get smart sheets that I'll show you in a couple minutes, that'll help do that. It's a layered sheet that you can request from the engineers and so forth. Hey, you're giving me a PDF, but give me a smart PDF. And so real simple. It's a one click that they have to do when they export it to PDF. And then, of course, the shape recognition is performed live, and that is where it actually matches up like items. I want to talk about managed sheet revisions. So I get changes, whether it's architectural engineering changes, they were revised and sent, and a lot of times they show up at the last minute. And sometimes they're not properly clouded. There might be changes in the notes, might be changes in the sizes and so forth like that, that you can't see. And if there's a way to identify these changes, it makes it a lot easier. So just to give you an example, a manual effort is you overlay over top and you see what you have and put it up to a light, or put it on a light table. So a lot of times that's the kind of things that happen. So all right, hang on 2 seconds. Okay, so with that, there's a tool called revisions. And when I go to revisions, I can pull in the addendums. If there's a change or revision or addendum, whatever it might be. A lot of cases, it's the revision. So you might have the initial sheet you took off, last minute you get a change. So what it's going to do is it's going to overlay over top. And I have a choice on my initial sheet. If there's something that's no longer there, make it red. If there's something new, then make it green. So that's what it does. It goes through and it overlays, does what you would do on a light table or something like that, trying to see those differences. And then when it's done, it comes in and you got both sitting here. And if I zoom into this area here, you can see that this VAV box is no longer there. It's in red. And this trunk coming out of here is no longer here. It is moved there. They've added one here. So a little change in differences there. One other thing is, just notice real quick, was a change in size. So it went from 7 to 10. Very difficult to see that. But okay, so you could go ahead and delete this and then take this off. You know you got to do it overlay over top. But what's nice is I can go ahead and select and move this here. And I can select this. Oops, wrong piece. I can select this. Move this thing here. It's just a message telling me it's changing it live. And move that to there. So now I moved that pipe run as well as that diffuser, which my diffuser has everything I need. It's got the spin in, insulation, and so forth, and the flex ties it picked up. So I can move that over there as well. And then I can sit there and say, all right, well, I want to delete this VAV box. So I think I'm good with the changes. I look around, don't see any more changes. There's some stuff here, but that might have been just a different line here and so forth, but I feel good enough. So I come back to revisions, which is the beauty of it is now, if I'm on paper plans and I make all these changes, the notes and so forth like that, as well as all the markup, and I get a whole new set of plans, then all my work is gone. Here, I just turn off the original and come back in. And now I have my revision sheet. You don't see that trunk anymore coming off of here. I don't see that VAV box. This is my actual revision sheet with everything I've done, all my annotations and everything I've done on top of it now. So we're going back here. You might have a different file format. That what I showed you was the same file format. And if you get it from the engineer, usually it is, you know, that they export it. There's not going to be changes. I mean, if it's a different size, it's going to say everything's different. So if it was reduced or enlarged. So there's a tool that allows you to resize it. In some cases, or you can, if it's off skewed, if it was scanned in, you can change the skew and get it lined up. There's also, if you have you might just get an 8.5 by 11 of a change of a certain area. And you can go ahead and move that on top of it. So if I get this little area here, I just go ahead and move it. It allows you to move it right on top of it. Okay, I want to just talk about PDF because that's important, because that's what you're getting. And you got different ways you're getting. And if you're running the Kinko's or wherever to scan in the paper drawings, because this is a change of what you're going to have to do. Because now I'm doing it all, taking off of paper and going into electronic. So we give you a tool called Advanced Image Manager. And this tool will allow you to load on anybody's machine. It doesn't matter. We don't care. It's to run standalone, but it is also linked to our digital takeoff. So if I run, when I said I was bringing in that sheet, if that sheet had multiple sheets on it, it would have asked me if I wanted to go break it up, and it would launch this tool. And in this tool, it would allow you to go and pick the ones, and I'll show you in a second. So it automatically, once you pick the ones and you exit, it brings those into your digital takeoff. Or you could have an administrative person run AIM and have them go ahead and break the drawings up for you and put on the server somewhere. Completely free with the product. As long as you're on support, you get this product and you can load it on as many machines as you want. And if it has a multi-layer breakdown, you can go ahead and see those layers and turn off layers. And that helps with that shape recognition I was talking about. And it has a red line capability. So if I want to mark up the plans a little bit in this tool. So here's just a quick little view of the tool. So you go ahead and you open it up, you find the file you want, and then you can make selections, different selections here. And those are the ones I want to bring over. So now I can go ahead and drag them and drop them somewhere on my desktop. I can send them quick export back to my digital takeoff, however I want to do it. Then in this drawing here, this is a drawing that has layers. So I see layer breakdown. It's only one sheet in that drawing, but it has the layers. So I can go ahead and scroll down here. First I wanted to turn off the full thing and find which ones I want to turn on. So I come down here and turn on my light fixtures. And now I have a drawing with just my light fixtures. And with that, it makes it a lot easier to do shape recognition or auto count, or however it's automatically. You don't have interference, you don't have whips running through things that make things different and so forth. So one other thing, actually, let's go back out. I think we got time. Good. Yeah. Let's go into electrical. Let's see which one that would get. We'll go ahead and try that. I had that drawing that I brought in. I think I do. Yeah, there's that drawing that we just took all the layers off. So I'm going to go to shape recognition. Let's come out here. I'm going to reload it. Let's go ahead and reload the image. And I'm going to crop an area. And the reason you might crop an area, you might have an area that is a type A. And it's just, that's all it has, is has the A in that area. It doesn't have it on each individual one. And I'm going to go ahead and process that image. So it goes through and counts up that quick. And you can see, zoom in a little bit here, you can see some are red and just a little different with the graphic, but it's saying that's what it found. So it found everything we had in that area. So you say, all right, I'm going to go ahead and select those matches as well as select the similar because they look good. So it just gives you a visual. And those red ones were the ones that they weren't quite 100% sure. And then you go ahead and connect. Then you go ahead and just make your takeoff. So what you're doing is you're going through, doing those counts, making that takeoff, and then you're able to actually pick what you want it to be, 2x2 lay-in, and it takes off 55 of those. If I come back to my sheet here, you'll see that those 55 have the check marks that are linked back to your automatic takeoff. So it quickly takes it off. One other thing I wanted to show you while we're still in here is I can go ahead and I'm used to flipping back in pages, or I take my light schedule and I take that image and I cut it out or whatever and put it up or scan it, make a copy of it and put a copy up on my wall so I can see it. Well, what we have here is called custom views. So I can go ahead and start a capture, and I can capture this, and I can call it it's saved. And then I have it at these views. So anytime I can go ahead and say, show me that light schedule. And I can have that sitting off here. You can say it always on top or not, but I don't have to go flipping back. So if I'm working in my area here and I'm trying to get a, let's pull this up. Pull this back up where I was doing my lighting in here, and I wanted to look at my light. I just get custom views. Let me see my schedule and view it, and not leave the drawing. So I don't want to go back and forth and flip through the drawings. So that's just a quick way. So one other thing you can do with this tool is if my run goes off onto another drawing. So if I have two pages, and I'm using a parking lot here for an example, but same concept, especially if I'm doing a home run or something where my pipe runs off and I don't want to stop that measurement, I want to continue. I have the ability to, in this aim tool, to move and align things. So I can rip out the duplicate and then align them, and one was off skew a little bit, moved it up. So now I have that full 2 pages as 1 page, and then I can bring that into digital takeoff. So that's the tool, the aim that you get with the product, and you can use it throughout. And you can use it for other things. Some people have used it for invoices that they get from a vendor, that they have 10 or 12 invoices that are all in one PDF, and now you got to break it up. And this tool will allow you to do that as well. So there's many uses for it, and it comes along with digital takeoff. Okay, I just wanted to just summarize. We talked about the paper plans and the differences with graphical takeoff, how it is a difference, and it is a learning curve, and it's something that we certainly understand that it takes some time. So that's why we kept other tools available so you can go back, because we know it's essential that you need to get that bid out and not waste time when you're learning. And the easy use that's the thing, is setting it up, the navigation. It's important that we have many ways to make it easier. One thing I didn't show, that palette that was there, you might not need to see that. If you want more real estate, you can pin that palette so it only opens up when you need to change to a different symbol or a different color, but then it's off to the side and gives you more. Because the biggest thing is you want to see the blueprints and not have to zoom so much. You want to get to comfortable zoom area for your eyes and then move around. And then the live takeoff, which is very important. So a couple things else is I can go over to my audit trail and I can highlight my audit trail and say, show me where this has been taken off on the plans, and vice versa. So it actually gives you a good check. So you can go back, and if you had somebody else help you with the takeoff, this is your estimate you're producing. Say, all right, well, they helped me out, but I just feel better if I just double check what they took off to make sure they got everything. You can do that. You can go over and go into the drawing and highlight different areas and see what actually that person that helped you took off, or even double check your own work. We talked about shape recognition, and I just always wanted to say that it's not a perfect science, because it's looking at pixels, and there could be problems with that. But that's why we give you the ability to view it and say yes, no, yes, no. Do I want these or do I not? Adding sheet revision, some people just use digital takeoff for that. And before we had that realignment, it was always had to be identical. And when we added realignment, it helped, because a lot of people had those 8.5 by 11s, or they were off skew. And then PDF tools. We talked about the PDF tools and that AIM tool that comes with it. So this is your Trimble, has graphical solutions. Like I said before, if you're AutoBid or AccuBid, you do have graphical takeoffs. They might not have exactly the same features, but very identical in the process, and the step-by-steps are the same. It is a linked live takeoff, and you have that ability to make changes, and they make changes in your audit trail. So there's a lot of similar things across the board of the portfolio of estimating for Trimble. But what we showed today was digital takeoff, and it comes along when you purchase a bundle with estimation, you get it, but it is sold standalone. So if you have estimating and don't have digital takeoff, you can purchase digital takeoff by itself. So with that, I am going to turn it back over to Millie to talk about webinars. Millie,
Alrighty, so here's the link for our upcoming webinars. I also did post it to the chat. Next week we have a CAD Journey webinar if you're interested in checking that out. So now we'll move over to the question and answer portion. So Carl, how would you go about adding the valves on the fly during the takeoff?
Simple. If you're using single line takeoff, you can, when you get to that valve, you can select the valve, and it'll automatically pick up the pipe. I was selecting pipe, but I could have went right to that valve, hit valve, took off the valve, and the pipe would follow behind it. There's a couple ways you can do it, or you can manually go and just do like counts, count up your valves afterwards. A lot of people do that as well. They just go in and say, all right, now I'm going to go through and just count my valves. And that's easy. That's just like we were doing the light fixtures or anything like that. You're just using the count button. Okay.
And then next, can you show the report once the takeoff is done?
Yeah, everything's similar to what you have. One is if you took it off on paper, you can go ahead and go to summary and do your report there. Everything's identical. The only thing is changed is you're not using a digitizer, you're using digital takeoff. And you can go ahead and save those drawings as well.
And how hard is it to put in your company's labor standards for HVAC mechanical?
Well, if you're fabricating, that's a long answer. But if you're fabricating, there's different that you put in there for the labor for that right now. The labor standards in there are SMACTA standards that are put in the whether it's fabricated or not. So changing those or just making those additions is yes, it's a task that you have to do, but at least you're basing it off of what the industry standard is, and that's the SMACTA standards that we already have in there. And back to that great question real quick. One thing I didn't show is there is a separate notepad audit trail that goes along with digital takeoff. And I didn't want to get that much detail, but there is one in there as well that you can just see what is on that. Where I showed that legend, you could see what is in that actual notepad. and that you can take and print that off. But we always suggest more because what really was taken off, because you got all the byproducts, all the addition, if it's assembly, got all those things, all the details are more going to be on your estimated auto trail and your summary.
And can you add to the rise drop like access panels?
Yeah, to the right. Not sure I understand what you're asking there. You can add, I mean, that's all part of your assembly, what you want to add to it. And I mean, you're just going to be marking up your plans and using it just as if you were doing your estimating as well. So however you did it before, you're just using digital takeoff to mark it up.
Does the menu power pad work with digital takeoff?
It does. It does. I could have used my keyboard or any keyboard when I was moving my mouse down to select the pipe. On the screen, I visually wanted to show you that because you wanted to see what I was selecting. But yeah, it's a lot faster. And that's one less learning. If you're used to a digitizer and a power pad, go into digital takeoff, that where you keep your mouse in your hand, and that's where you're doing your measuring. Your other hand can be on your power pad, and you just go measure, bam, you hit your A key on your power pad, and it automatically takes off. You don't have to move your mouse down to that on-screen menu. And that helps because it keeps your mouse focused on where you were taking off. I used to always say that about the menu power pad when you're doing it on paper plans, is if you have to move your touch point to point, and then you have to pick up your mouse to select it, you just let go of the pen. And that's what's so nice of having the power pad menu pad, that you can point to point and then you just hit with your other finger.
When I save my jobs, do all the marked up drawings get saved with it?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. You save your job. There's a selection for digital takeoff when you go to save your job. It's an estimate and digital takeoff. Make sure that checkbox, it defaults to checked off if you have digital takeoff in it. But yes, and then when you load it up later, all your drawings as well as all your notes, legends, annotations are taken off as well. I mean, are visible as well.
And do I have to license all my users with digital takeoff, or can I just do a few?
You can, oh yeah, absolutely. You can do, say you have 5 licenses of estimating and you only want to purchase one, absolutely. You can purchase one and have one person work on it, get used to it, get familiar, and you don't want to commit everybody to that because you don't want to slow down at first, that learning curve. And if you're on a network, you can do the same. You can have a couple of licenses available, and then it's whoever has access. So that way, if it's on a network, you got 5 licenses, you can buy 2 digital takeoff, and all 5 can use it, but only 2 at once. Millie?
Alrighty, are there any more questions that anyone has? Feel free to drop them in the Q&A box on GoToWebinar. And as a reminder, this recording of the webinar will be sent out in an email, and any questions that we don't get to will also be answered in that follow-up email. Somebody just asked, is the database like AutoBid?
For mechanical, very similar. Yes, AutoBid's database and the estimation database are very similar. There might be some differences and so forth. There's some things that are in one or not in the other, but we have the ability to integrate and link with Tracer and pull in any categories, or even Harrison as well. Any categories that you might have that aren't in there, you can pull them in at any time and bring them into your database, and or bring them into your takeoff on the fly if you needed something. Just it's not in your database and you need it just for this particular job, you don't want it in your database, and you can do it right in your specials and bring it in there, and then you just had it for that job.
And can we use single line takeoff with custom menus?
No, not yet. They have to be with the individual menu.
Alrighty, that looks like that answers most of the questions that were in that Q&A box. So just as a reminder, the follow-up email will include a recording of this webinar and any answers to questions that we might have missed. Thank you guys for joining us for this webinar presentation of the power of digital takeoff for Trimble Estimation.
Yeah, thank you very much. Have a good day.